Hey, and welcome to the Simply Create Business Podcast. The episodes focus on businesses in the Essex to East London area, bringing you their story, their journey, and a great insight into local businesses. In each episode, we explore where it all started, where they are now, and what's next. Okay, we hope you're ready for this episode. We've got Jared Beaumont Williams. He's an all-round entrepreneur, he's a startup consultant, a business coach. He is the founder of Fresh Fitness Food and Plant. So excited to get started. Let's jump in with the Quickfire Questions.
I am pumped and ready.
Wicked. We're going to jump straight into a quick-fire round. Answer these questions as quick and as honest as you can. Are you ready for that?
Yep.
Okay, first one. Are Jaffa cakes a biscuit or a cake?
Cake.
Takeaway or restaurant?
Restaurant.
Instagram or Snapchat?
IG.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Mac or PC?
Mac.
Autumn or spring?
Spring.
Music while you work or silence?
Music.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Control time.
What is your least favourite chore?
Getting up in the morning.
One thing you would definitely take to a desert island?
Boat.
Morning person or night person?
Night person.
Favourite album, past or present?
Bad.
And great choice, that's one.
First ever one as well.
What either or type question should I ask future guests?
Ooh, peanut butter smooth or crunchy?
Amazing. Okay, so I haven't done any intro because I'm leaving it all to you.
Okay.
Can you tell listeners a bit about yourself, where you're from, what your hobbies are, an overview of Jared?
A quick and dirty.
Yeah.
Right, let's go way back. I am a proud Cornishman. I was born and raised in a Cornish pub, surrounded by food, coast 10 minutes away, and I love my sport, love my rugby. And I grew up there, great bunch of friends. And when like everyone else at my school, time to fly the nest. I went to York for 3 years. I studied history for no other reason than I think I was a bit of terror at school, and the only teacher I got on with was my history teacher, Mr. Dickens. Thank you for turning my life around.
Well done, Mr. Dickens.
Yeah. And I had a great time at York for 3 years. Got a great piece of life advice, which is I was umming and ahhing about what to do. I wasn't ever going to write books or teach history, so I didn't really know what to do with myself. And knowing how much I enjoyed university, a family friend asked me a question. She said, how long do you think you're going to be in the workplace? 40 years. And she said, well, why not study for one more year and work for 39? And I thought, I'm going to take that. Yeah. So I'm quite academic, or I was quite academic. So I went to Oxford, and I was very lucky to read in an area where I was one of a couple of people studying that area, history of masculinities, which is very much in its infancy still. So I had the pleasure of, great institution, great environment, great people, so super talented, super smart. So very, very great place to learn. And then it was time to think vocationally. So I went down to Guildford. I did my GDL and LPC, converted to law, and then decided to go the solicitor route. And then I delayed the prospect of work for 6 more months whilst I went travelling. And then finally, I moved to London, the big smoke.
There you go.
And I worked as a lawyer for 4 years. That was as a corporate lawyer for what I believe now is the third largest firm in the world, a firm called Cameron McKenna. Enjoyed it, didn't love it, evidently. Just didn't want to kind of, I'm quite an ambitious, tenacious, bloody-minded bastard, actually. And as soon as I didn't want to be a partner, I think things started to slip. So in 2011, I found myself not being a lawyer. Went on a few holidays, had a very good kind of relaxing time, and then
enjoy yourself, yeah.
And then my very first business idea wasn't Fresh Fitness Food, which I'm sure we'll chat about in a minute, but it was a lifestyle business for guys. Mm-hmm. And it was going to have 7 limbs. Okay. And you being a guy, you come to me and you say, I'm not happy with my love life or interior design or fashion, or I need to travel more, or confidence or nutrition. Yeah. And didn't know anything about any of them. And so I thought it's kind of better to focus on one thing that I don't know about than 7 things I didn't know about.
Okay, makes sense.
And that's where the time in the pub and the sport, but also the frustration I felt as a lawyer kind of came together. As I said, love sport. Always threw myself into everything. I believe food has this incredible social dynamic and incredible power to change you as an individual, physically, mentally, etc. And working as a lawyer for 4 years in what I think is the best city in the world, I simply, when I wanted to eat a more healthy lifestyle, I looked out into the world and said, well, surely I can give you some information about myself, my taste preferences, allergies, goals, and then you provide a gram-specific packaged meal to me, ready to eat every day. That feels like a nice exchange. I'm willing to pay, someone must be willing to do this. And there was just nothing. And that was when I realised that kind of entrepreneurial up against brick wall. So I had to do it myself, and that's how Fresh Fitness Food was born.
Amazing.
Passion and frustration kind of colliding.
Yeah, and seeing that it's not being provided already,
exactly.
And wanting to carve your way into that space. So yeah, it's nice.
Yeah,
great.
And we are now next month, Fresh Fitness Food, which I'll introduce, is the leading personalised daily meal delivery business. Okay. So what we do, no, thank you. It's we take an individual's personal information, height, weight, biometric, food, allergies, DNA, the works. We then have a team of in-house nutritionists. 4 are dedicated to plan creation and customer services. Then we have 2 more, so we have 6 in-house nutritionists full time. They create highly bespoke plans that we never brag in a way that we feel is unjustified or just for the sake of some marketing noise. We feel we're doing what no one else in the world does, which is produce highly personalized plans. That's step 2. Step 3 is the cooking. The plan gets pushed into our technology, our incredibly complex algorithm, and it pushes instructions to the chef, push instructions to the packers, push instructions to the delivery. So we cook the food, fresh, different menu every day, rotates on a 3-week basis. So you cannot get bored of our food. Yeah. No excuses.
I know people that say, it's always the same thing. Yeah,
exactly. Especially if you've got a bad relationship with food, i.e., you come to us because you're overweight, and if we give you the same food every day, you're going to be, you've probably got Domino's on speed dial anyway,
of course,
so it's there. And then packing, which is really, they're in some ways the magic of the whole thing. They individually weigh every single element in every single meal. So if you need 164 grams of chicken and I need 172 grams of chicken, that's what we get, because that's the promise we deliver. The promise we make, that's what we deliver. And then the food is delivered daily between 11 and 6, so 11 at night and 6 in the morning in a temperature control bag, to traditionally any residential or commercial address within the M25, but now we cover 9-10 other cities in the UK. And then the final step, we have an absolutely unrelentingly amazing customer service team that are free and at your disposal. So you have a professional, personal, dedicated nutritionist designing you a plan, a team of professional chefs cooking you food designed around your needs, and a nutritionist supporting you every day.
Amazing. Yeah. And tell people before we forget, because I want them to know how do they find you? So if they listen to this and go, oh my God, I need it, it's definitely that kind of platform I want you to tell
fantastic.
them.
So I can plug it?
Please plug it.
Okay, right, I'll plug it. So we are Fresh Fitness Food. You can find us everywhere under that name. So freshfitnessfood.com, Fresh Fitness Food on IG, Fresh Fitness Food on Facebook. We are heavy into grassroots activities. So we partner with hundreds of gyms, thousands of PTs, fitness brands, both digitally and offline. And we are incredibly open to working with you. If you are someone who gives someone health and fitness advice, we can be a bolt-on service, introducing adherence, consistency and precision and getting you results.
Amazing. I think if you're listening to this as well and you've had the experience and you've had great experience, then get in touch and let people know, spread the
please do. Yeah, that's the way the world needs to work.
So you've kind of touched on, which is great, other questions just in case people don't get there, is how you came up with the idea. You kind of said that, so that's kind of, can you tell listeners a bit about how you got to the point in the business that you're currently at? So take them on a little bit of a journey from the start of it to now. I
can swear, right?
Yeah.
So it was a complete shit show to start off with, and it was at times, I did know what I'd signed up for to an extent, but it was just so relentless, and it was so, the highs were great, but the lows were just borderline. I some of the lowest moments of my life, and I'm convinced they won't get that low again. Genuinely staring at the floor, just thinking, it's done. It's failed. In fact, the screensaver I've got on my phone is, I'll show you actually. I'll show the camera if I could do that as well. So,
Yeah, you can do it.
don't know if you can see that. That is a bunch of coins. And that was probably one of the lowest financial moments I've had. So this was after paying my rent in cash to a good buddy. That was for the flat come office, come kitchen at the time where I was preparing the food. I tried my card, it didn't work. And I was trying to buy a bottle of Coke. So I was like, okay, this is why I can't, there's not £1.50 on my card. And I remember, I'll never remember this. I'll never forget this. I was in a subway on Portobello Road. And I went down to Notting Hill. And I went to NatWest and Barclays and tried every card and every credit card. Absolutely no luck. Had literally nothing. And I've never, I guess the privilege of where we live and probably the way we were roughly brought up. You just always assume that at least access to 10 quid, right? And it wasn't. And I went home and stupidly thought, I'll see how much money I've got. Like that's going to make a difference. And it was a Thursday, and I had bills and wages to pay tomorrow and the next day at this stage. And there was nothing. There was £4.50, and that's what's in that photo there. So yeah, I genuinely had a moment of like not even thinking.
Did you buy the Coke? You said you had £4.50.
I had £4.50 when I went back to the flat.
Okay.
I had nothing on me. Do you know what? I'm such a Diet Coke fan. I probably would have.
Okay.
So I probably would have looked at that moment and said, do you know what? I'm going to spend 30% of my remaining funds on this Diet Coke. But no, I went back and there was, I thought that was it. And many times I thought that was it. But no, sorry, actually, let me rephrase that. Many times I've thought that's it, we're failing, I failed, I'm a failure. But there was moments in that conversation with myself where I knew it. I knew it. There was no way. There was X amount of money had to go out, and I probably had stuff delayed, and I pushed back, and staff had to be paid, and I knew they needed the money. Suppliers had to be paid, or no food would turn up on Sunday, cooking for Monday. So that was it. And yeah, it was a serious conversation with myself. Like I remember staring at the floor for a long time and staring at nothing and thinking that, well, I'm a failure. And actually the words, and I remember this really specifically. I remember thinking like, I'm going to have to tell my mum. And that felt really shit. Cause like she would simultaneously be the most supportive person in the world. But I know that. So when she says you're not a failure, I know that she's going to say that anyway.
Yeah, of course.
So so that was going through my mind and I felt pretty bad. But then after feeling like that a little bit, there was this kind of bloody, I think I said at the beginning, like almost this, I'm very bloody minded and I'm very competitive myself. I'm very driven. And I just said, there's got to be a way. I'm not going to accept failure. I'll just keep going and see how the events unfold. So I had enough time to get on my email and probably send, it sounds like nothing now, but a lot then, probably send 100 emails out to absolutely anyone that would respond, listen, pick up the phone, made phone calls, lined up a few meetings. And the next day I managed to, by probably 50-60%, we had our biggest sales day ever. By me literally going, when I say hitting the streets, I mean walking into gyms, walking into people's place of work. And the biggest one, because she paid £1,800 whilst I was sat next to her, walking into a hair salon on Queensway and sat next to her. I remember the lady, and she was kind of umming and ahhing, and she said, I'll probably order later. And I was just like, I actually can't leave. I know what sales is about. You'll say I'll order later, you'll go out for a glass of wine and you'll catch up with your buddy and that'll be the end of it. Or, you'll go off and your kid's crying and that's the end of it. So I basically said, I'm not really, I didn't say it, but in my mind I was like, I'm not going to leave until you transfer some money to this account. And she did. She bought 60 days, which was the biggest order we'd ever made at that stage. And she transferred £1,800. And that in itself kind of got us, I think I needed £2,000 or something to continue. I think we got about 2,500 in over the line that day. So it was a pretty shitty moment, and very, very stressful, deeply stressful to think you put so much effort in and then it was slipping away. But also learned a lot about myself. That sounds very dramatic.
What made you not? So my question, and I'm kind of re-changing this because I was going to say what's been the kind of low point of the bit, but because you didn't quit. So what made you not quit? Like why wasn't that the moment?
It's interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting. So what made me? Why did I kind of persevere? I think the standard answer in this is that you say I refuse to quit, and that's actually not the answer. So it's a mixture of emotions in that moment. There was definitely ego involved, 100%. I didn't want to have to tell my mates that this funny, funky little food project that I'd left a career in law for. I mean, at that stage, like, I didn't have a bad record. Did well, nice universities, law degree.
You didn't want that to be
big international law firm, food startup, fuck up. That's that. So there was ego at play. Definitely the feeling of how my parents would view me was big. Funny enough, in between law and fresh fitness food, I'd had a series of conversations with a friend of my auntie's, and she's a very high performing exec coach. I will probably never be able to afford her services, but she very kindly gave me some advice, and she got me to think about legacy, what I want to leave behind, what I'm going to be proud of in 50, 60 years, how I want to be remembered. And I think that was a big part of it as well. I felt in that moment I'd put too much in, and my idea, I still believed in my idea, and I felt that the idea was too good to fail just because of a couple of hiccups or 100 hiccups in a row. And I felt that all I needed was kind of one big win to turn that around.
And that becomes a difficult thing to judge, right? The moment where ego plays a part of carrying on, or ego takes you too far and you get yourself into some trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. There's people that have made very, very silly decisions, whether personally, the relationships that stack up behind you and become victim to your own ego. Yeah, and I mean, being completely transparent, that was a part of my journey as well. There's weddings I didn't go to. There's a lot of birthdays and stags that I either attended but wasn't there, or I've literally got off the tube to Heathrow and changed platform to come back, and said, can't come on your stag, and that's shit. There's no way around that, But at the same time, it was because the head chef had quit. What the hell are you going to do? It doesn't matter, I could have done a lot before then to change things, but in that moment,
that's what
I either said, okay, well, the business fails and I go on the stag, or I put my whites on and I go and cook on Sunday.
So we got to that bit, but tell people that are listening where you're at now, so they can understand that you hit that.
Yeah.
But now, where are you? And I've got a bit of an insight to this already, but
yeah. So things are very different now. So Fresh Fitness Food's gone through 2 rounds of investment. The second round of investment, I stood down as CEO for a number of reasons. Partly, I think strangely the main reason is that there was an individual who had kind of started in the kitchen and moved to really a GM, then COO. And I recognised in him someone to take the company forward in a way that I couldn't. That's a nice feeling. Yeah. But there's also the fact that I realised that I was becoming distracted. It's really strange. I've always struggled to describe this. It's almost like I was still 100% in love and 100% focused on Fresh Fitness Food. But, and this number doesn't make sense, there was another 10% of me that was focusing on other stuff. So it's really weird. Like, I almost felt like I was cheating, which is a bizarre thing to say. I still love you, but like, I love my mistress as well, And I was becoming distracted. I'd started with a couple of projects on the side, and I started to feel really selfish. There was people relying on the business for a livelihood, to put kids through school, to pay mortgages, sending over 50% of their wages back home. Yeah. So, if I wasn't 110%, to the exclusion of anything else at that stage, I did feel a bit selfish. But now the business is in a fantastic position. So I'm still very involved with the business as now. I've been taking progressive steps back, and I moved from CEO into a pure sales role, which is really what the business needed. And I've always taken to sales very well. I do kind of love the fight. But I'm now focusing exclusively on strategic partnerships, which is sales of a sort, but really thinking a little bit more high level about how we can position the business structurally and really kind of very exciting way to kind of find some new, non-existent routes to market.
It's less a day-to-day sales kind of activity.
It's less
day-to-day.
It's less day-to-day, yeah. In terms of business though, we have a fantastic team. Like possibly the biggest piece of advice I can give to anybody starting a business is, and it sounds so cliche, find people that are better than you and leave them to do their job. And we've got people that are so much more, no false modesty, so much more talented than I would ever be in their individual job. And we've got about 55, 60 people working for us. This time last year, we outsourced all our delivery to a company called City Sprint, which kind of reduced our overhead, our delivery numbers. Which reduced our staff headcount at the time. And we've got some investors, we've got new guys on the board, and they are adding a level of kind of rigor to our corporate structure and to the way that we financially report and everything like that, which is good. And we're weighing up a few things. There's potentially another round of investment on the horizon. Our goal today remains the same as day zero, which is to build and establish the brand in London, to build out a franchise-ready model, even if we do not franchise, whether it's a partnership or something like that. And then to move into other cities, other major metropolitan cities. So we are looking at New York, we're looking at Dubai, maybe Riyadh, we're looking at Singapore and Sydney.
Amazing.
So if I could wave a magic wand, that's where we'll be in 2 to 3 years. Five cities,
yeah.
very,
moving
very
swiftly then,
yes,
as well.
Exactly,
going international
exactly.
and stuff. So that's great.
That's the plan.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, we're going to move on to the present, but before I do that, we'll be getting right back into the interview in just a moment. We just wanted a chance to say thank you very much for listening. If you're not already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you and your thoughts on the podcast, so please make sure you get in touch on any of the social media platforms. And finally, if you're listening to this in an app, please don't forget to rate and review. It's really appreciated. Right, straight back to it. Present. So that's kind of the section we're moving on to.
Sure.
And these kind of they're kind of my questions for kind of everyone. So they do go a bit off track, but they're based on Simply Create and bits and pieces. So how do you have or interact and engage with your local community through your business? Like how have you recently, or what's been one of the best times that you have?
Wow. So Fresh Fitness Food started life as a London only, and we're still predominantly London only as a business. And we do try to position ourselves. So literally this morning, we had some of our breathtakingly amazing staff attend a soup kitchen and hand out free food, get to know people, and not just kind of go through the motions, but sit and talk and try to engage and provide some conversation is sometimes as important as the food. So hopefully the food was yummy as well.
Of course, yeah.
So we do, and we God, what we try to do is I genuinely believe this is the best city in the world, as I mentioned. It's not the healthiest. And I think if we can be a part of that, turning that around, I think we'd be very happy. So we have gone to soup kitchens. We're kind of weighing up. We've partnered with a few charities, but the one that is looking like probably our first official tie-up is a company called City Harvest, who they collect unused food and redistribute it to London's hungry. So they'll pick up food from Whole Foods. They'll make some phone calls to soup kitchens and charities and church organisations and say, we've got 60 pints of milk and 9 loaves of bread. What can you do with it?
Yeah, of course.
So we're a part of that. On a business level, so thinking about our sales channels, we partner with many gyms. And my view on sales has always been the same. It's to think of their business before you think your own. So I want to understand that business model and where we can add as much value as possible. So if a gym is just about to open its doors for the first time, wouldn't they love a talk from a nutritionist? Wouldn't they love to get more people in the door because they're offering some free yummy food?
Of course, yeah.
And we can, we've got, our through and through our business is fitness. Our head chef has stepped on stage as a fitness competitor many times. Our head of sales played rugby very seriously until a series of he's basically got injured, and now he's kind of into his kind of I guess you would say elite fitness, something called Turf Games, which is almost a CrossFit type outfit.
Okay, yeah.
And it goes on and on and on. Our marketing coordinator probably runs more miles than I will run this year every week. It's a horrible amount, but she's got a great batch. She runs run clubs around the country and works with huge brands.
Amazing.
So it's through and through, I guess. So we do try to position ourselves as a grassroots focused business. We put our sales hats on when we do that. We're also a brand that likes to work with other cool brands, partly because it makes sense strategically, partly because we think it makes sense for our staff to have a good, give you, for instance, one of our local gyms, their owners get a heavy discount, and we can send 3 people along to a class a day. Mm-hmm. Nice little.
Nice, yeah.
So we're heavily kind of London focused, and proudly so.
Is there something that the community could do for you to support you? I don't necessarily always believe that it should be a one-way street.
Yeah,
it should be both ways. So is there something that if anybody listening wants to help you do whatever, word of mouth, whatever it might be, if you're looking for something in particular, is there anything the community could do for you?
Yeah, there is. And I say that I've got my strategic partnerships hat on now.
Great.
So I my background in the corporate space taught me many things, but it really taught me that to eat healthily is not just about mindset and intent. It's very much about acknowledging the practicalities of the working day in the office. It's about accessibility. It's about convenience. It's about taste. And that's where we think we can actually hold our head with a high street. So if I was to request something, I would say that if you are on your way, listening to this podcast, on the way into an office, and I would say of any size really, let's just say 10 people or more in London, and you think your team, your business would benefit from partnering with someone like us, let me know. So what that looks like is we can deliver personalized meals, personalized nutrition designed around you and your company's requirements to be more productive, to reduce absenteeism, to create the right culture where you can reduce your recruitment cost, retain talent. So I'm almost speaking to HR managers. So, almost connect me with your HR
And
manager.
if you already subsidise some kind of lunch in London, right?
Exactly.
Then just change the way you're subsidising that.
It happens a lot. So we're speaking with a company at the moment. It's a hedge fund. They get a £15 allowance a day if they work past 8 o'clock, which they do every single day. That's whether that's healthy or not is a different conversation. And they're along with Deliveroo and a couple of other companies, we are going to be a part of their invoicing system, so they can order fresh fitness food, and for as little as £20, they can get 3 meals a day, and then basically invoice £15. So for 3 meals a day, now each individual is getting it for £8. So we can be, so that my HR language would be, please get in touch to discuss whether we can position fresh fitness food as a discounted employee benefit at no cost to the corporate. Amazing. Yeah.
Great. And I hope at least one person
at some
point gives you that call. I really do. I focus a lot on creativity. We kind of had a little chat about this. So I just want your input on how important you feel like it is or it isn't creativity in your business or in business in general.
Yeah, it's hugely important. It's hugely important. I think that the role of creativity in allowing you as the entrepreneur to find something and to create something that is different, to recognize, to be able to look at something with an open mind, and then to create a solution for a problem. That's really the heart of entrepreneurship, and that's where Fresh Fitness Food started. I wanted a service, couldn't find it, and so I created it to use language. Yeah. And so I think it's fundamental to the process of bringing forward something that does genuinely solve a problem. Some businesses thrive on simply saying we will do what they do better. We will be the biggest protein company in the world, but we will charge 2p less. And you would say that's not creative, but behind the scenes they'll have to think very creatively about their pricing structure, ops,
of course,
recruitment, etc. One thing I would add, this is possibly an interesting take on it, is I often find that people's greatest strengths are their greatest weaknesses. I was having this discussion with a friend the other day, And creativity is absolutely one of those things. So if you are creative, innovative, you are thinking about new things in the world, it could be the thing that defines your life in a really positive way. But, word of warning, it could absolutely be the single thing that holds you back the most.
Okay, yeah.
Shiny toy syndrome.
100%.
Yeah, exactly. So I absolutely love this phrase. I probably wheel this out in conversation about 3 or 4 times a week, which is that entrepreneurs don't starve through a lack of ideas, they drown through having too many. And I think it's absolutely, and that goes to the heart of the creativity point.
In making that focus, and I 100% agree. And I can relate to that as well, because before really setting down and starting Simply Create, it was trying a little bit here, trying a little bit there. There was so many ideas I didn't really know. And then it was actually someone who's the CEO of a company that I work for. He basically said to me, without 100% having, I think, knowing the impact it will make, he was like, I never seem to see the end product. Which I didn't think was fair at the time, and I still don't really think it was 100% fair, because he was the CEO, so he wasn't that close to me understanding. But at the same time, it resonated with me as like, I'll never be that. It'll never be that again. No one will say that again.
That's interesting.
That was what.
And I believe that to truly achieve something, you do have to go deep. It's 24 hours in a day, etc. So where do you find the time? It's it's a really interesting point.
Changing the subject completely, because we're flying through the questions now. One of the reasons for me having this conversation, despite everyone else, is to kind of see similarities, differences, obviously me taking on learning. But can you tell people, me mainly, something that you're struggling with or right now, or something that you're finding a struggle, and how you're maybe dealing with that? Or I know that's definitely on the spot, because no, like, don't do that.
No, absolutely no. I think one of the most important tasks any human being can have is realise where they're weak. So no, it's an interesting question. I mean, it's fresh in my mind, but I think I will look back on this year, 2018, and possibly next year as years where I spread myself thin. So back to you, I am like every human being. I have a lot of ideas. I think the key difference is not that I have more ideas; it's that I work very hard to bring them up to a certain point. What I hope is that I look back on these years and say, well, actually, they were formative in either me becoming someone who can juggle, or someone who realises he can't juggle, but at least spread himself wide enough to realise where his true passion and future.
You can get rid of the other ones and focus on the ones that count. Yeah.
Exactly. I might need to start closing some doors in my language, very soon. So that's a weakness. I think I'm getting better at this, but I have to be kind of proactively positive. So there's some words that sit at the top of my to-do list, like every single day. It's be positive, stay focused, make a difference. I think that making a difference is the grand why. So that's always there. There's things I want to achieve in life. The stay focused is an ongoing thing. It's very much about being organised and being blinkered with your time. But that first one, being positive, is something that I like wearing my heart on my sleeve. I've struggled with. If I'm in a shit mood. Okay. I'm not a fake person, and I don't kind of mask the fact I'm in a great, brilliant, terrible.
Could have been a different.
Could have been a terrible interview. Yeah, I could just be sitting here in complete. We could still be on the Jaffa Cake question. Just fuck you. I don't want to ask that.
I'm glad.
Yeah, it would have been a strange one to put out, wouldn't it? No, and so I think it's definitely been my biggest weakness in the past, and my positivity. But I think because I'd like to think I'm quite self-aware. I like to think I self-audit quite a lot, and that's something I'm trying to work on. Still trying to work on.
Of course. Yeah. Do you have a practical tip for anybody starting? Something, they want to get into business, they want to be an entrepreneur, they have 1,000 ideas maybe, and they've picked one. Do you have something practical? And the reason I choose the word practical is I read a lot of books, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and it's all great. It focuses a lot sometimes on quotes, and mindset, which is great, but if you really want to start, what can I do? What can I actually...
Love it. I agree. It's a motivating quote only gets you so far, right? Where would I start? I think the time invested in looking for direct and indirect competition is very, very rare. Because you get excited, right? I've got this idea. I think I'm going to change the world. Take 10 minutes to look out there, and your business is not entirely unique. Fresh Fitness Food, I said it was the first to market. We were not the only food company. We're not the only food delivery company. We created a niche, but nevertheless, there was lots of learning from direct, indirect competition. So that's one thing. I think the other thing is, and this is possibly the biggest thing, ask yourself a set of questions, not I want to grow my business. That's useless. It's so vague. It's not a smart goal. It's not a specific measure, all that kind of stuff. So I would say ask yourself a set of questions that, when answered, whether if that business, that thing, that business, that idea, you can then basically grow for 10 years. So don't say specifically I want, or vaguely I want to grow. I want this business to be the best something in the world. Nail some things down. I need 100 subscribers, or even more fundamental, will another human being buy this thing? Will someone refer me to another? Does someone like the pricing? Will, etc. What causes someone to not sign up? What causes someone to churn when they have signed up?
Yeah.
So if you can set yourself 6 fundamental questions that allow you to know if this business is even a thing, then the next step is, how cheaply can you answer those questions?
Amazing. Yeah. Great. I think that's probably the best answer to that question we've had. So thank you very much. Okay, so the future. So only a few more questions there.
Sure.
Moving on, what's coming?
Future,
what's coming? What are you most excited about in the next 15 months? 12 months, 15 months, 18 months.
Wow. So, like loads. I am genuinely. So I'll give you what's going on. Fresh Fitness Foods in a very, very interesting growth period, where structurally and fundamentally we're becoming a really tight SME as opposed to a scrappy startup. Personally, when I focus just on me, I am, one of my big things, or really two of my big things this year, is to start down the path of more fundamentally in a much more structured way, helping as many startups as I can go from, and my strapline is helping helping people turn good ideas into great businesses. Yeah. How can I do that beyond individual consultancy? So I'm going to start a side hustle academy and a startup accelerator. Yeah. So aimed at people that are really, I've got an idea, or I'm possibly generating some money and I want to take it further, but very early stage. And those courses will be both digital and offline, testing at first. And it's really about taking companies through. Everyone starts a business and they tend to focus on what they either enjoy, they find it easiest, or they think the business needs. Mm-hmm. Now, very, very often, more times than not, those 3 things are not what the business needs. Your business might need 2 hours of accounting every night. Mm-hmm. No one wants to do that, especially not if you're from a creative background. Mm-hmm. There's the other side of that creativity. Yeah. So giving people as much of a blueprint. I'm going to plug my podcast and say you should listen to the Startup Blueprint.
And I have, so I can vouch for that. Listen to the 2 episodes that are out currently, both amazing, so make sure you do.
Thank you, yeah. So giving people a blueprint to put them in the very best position possible to avoid mistakes and answer the questions they need to answer and move their business forward profitably, scalably, in a healthy way. Yeah.
And as well, to plug for you, plant protein as well, obviously.
Exactly.
Is in the rise. So
yes, it is. It is. And I know
you've got loads, but I'm going to do the ones I know about to try and at least get people aware of them.
I've really sorted out the narrative in my head there, and I honestly believe that it's me at the moment. I'm very used to saying we. I'm very convinced that Plant is going to be the most sustainable supplements brand in the world. It's going to hold a mirror up to the supplements industry. It's going to force change. It's got the goal of planting 1 million trees in 3 years. And it starts with one flavor, starts with one SKU, which is a raw cacao plant protein, which is entirely organic, raw, free from all nasties and artificial everything. High in fiber, high in protein. It tastes great. For a vegan product, for a plant-based product, to taste unbelievably great. And that is available on Amazon this very day, and it's Plant with a V.
Yeah. The A is
PLVNT. Yeah. A little bit of a sideways nod to veganism and veggie. Yeah. And Plant wasn't available as a URL. You've got to take what you're given, right?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, scenario question, and this is for anybody listening that can't get motivated really, or hasn't really got to that point where they've even thought about the start. If someone is just out of school, out of college, out of university, maybe unemployed, how do you think they can stand out from the crowd?
Oh, wow. Very cool. I like that. I think that the easiest way to stand out is to really take time to understand who you are and understand your values. Because if you try to start imitating people, now whether this is you're building your personal brand or whether you say, okay, that company's great, I'm going to try to do what they do because I think it's cool, you're not creating that creative, innovative niche that we spoke about earlier, but B, you're going to spend so much energy trying to be someone else as opposed to being yourself. How can you introduce any element of consistency, and hence how can your audience understand where your value proposition is, who you are, what you stand for, and why they're listening to you? If you're kind of like, oh God, I've got to think about what I should say now. I'll jump back onto this person's social. Be yourself always. Yeah.
Amazing. And we're at the last question, and the last question is a bit of a U-turn. Okay. Because the last question is, do you have a question for me? I always put everybody under kind of the caution, ask them questions that don't really know is coming, maybe even make them feel a bit like, oh, I don't know how to answer that one. So I give the chance for the guest to put me back on the spot if they would like to.
Of course I want to.
Any question I don't know what this is. So.
I will ask my exit question then.
Okay.
So imagine a scenario where you can write the perfect blueprint to run your business today, and you get to go back and hand that blueprint over to your younger self. The lift doors are shutting. You get to say very, very quick few words as it's being passed across the threshold. What do you say to your younger self?
I would say that there is an abundance of opportunity. You only have to kind of keep your head up and keep looking around. And one of the reasons I'm trying to say that is that I think sometimes you go down a career path, when you're setting out, you leave school, you go to uni, you do whatever that is, and you become quite narrow and forget that the world is a massive place, that there's doors and relationships that you don't even know about yet, that they're coming. So it would just be like, keep your head up and keep looking for opportunities, I think.
Love it.
Probably, maybe.
I love the structure of this. This is very cool.
And that's it. So
awesome.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
It's been absolutely amazing. Some great insight. I mean, we had a chat before the podcast kicked off, and I'm definitely going to be watching all your stuff even more closely than I already was. Good luck with the future. And
you too.
Hope our paths cross at some point again.
I think it will.
But until then, all the best. Thank you very much for being a great guest.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a review, and any comments with any feedback would be much appreciated.